Okay, it's time to check in once again with Kevin Costner's Horizon. I really enjoyed part one, and every so often I says to myself, I haven't heard anything about part two lately. Part two was supposed to follow immediately after part one. Part one came out in June of last year. Part two was supposed to come out in August. The film underperformed at the box office. They decided to hold off by their rationale to get more eyes on part one as it came out on streaming. There is the question of, did that plan succeed? Did they get more eyes on part one? Did they gin up enough enthusiasm for part two? Let me know if you caught part one on streaming and if it made you want to see part two. Just as a sort of outside observer, I don't see much potential in this sort of attempting a kind of grassroots campaign to get people excited about the movie. That kind of thing works for the Minecraft movie. That sort of thing works for whatever, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but I'm not sure that the audience for Kevin Costner's Horizon is quite the same. In any case, every so often I'll wonder to myself, what's happening with part two? Is it going to be out on streaming? Is it going to continue with the plan to go in theaters? Is there actually going to be 4 of these films? Or might they try and wrap it up in 2? But anyway, we have a bit of an update here. It appears the film and Kevin Costner's production company has entered some sort of legal dispute with New Line Cinema. And I'm not going to pretend to understand all this financial mumbo-jumbo. There's a lot of sort of inside baseball, inside Hollywood baseball stuff here, but I'll try and parse through it as best I can here. So this is from The Hollywood Reporter, and it says, New Line Cinema has filed an arbitration claim against Kevin Costner's company under which Horizon was produced, over alleged breaches to a deal for the period Western. Horizon series, Costner's loan-out firm, is in a standoff with New Line over its co-financing agreement, a source says. After City National Bank initiated arbitration proceedings against both companies, New Line responded by filing a cross-claim seeking repayment from Horizon series as part of its defense. I don't know what any of this means. I have a broad understanding of what arbitration is. That's when you bring in a third party. I have a broad understanding about how film financing works as far as loans and whatnot. I guess in this case, somebody didn't pay somebody, but the article continues here. Under the deal, New Line and Horizon series were each required to repay a portion of the financing. By New Line's thinking, it covered the portion its partner didn't pay, but City National Bank took the position it's owed more. Okay, this is sort of like a situation I once had with an old apartment. Me and some pals, we all rented an apartment, and the place was a dump. It escalated. There were holes in the ceiling. Rain would come down through the roof into the apartment, and all we could do was catch it with buckets. The landlord would not fix these issues. They were dragging their feet. And at one point, I just said, I'm not paying for this. I'm not paying for this. I'm not paying to live in a leaky flop house. But then the landlord still wanted money, and my roommate ended up paying my share of the rent. Me, I was trying to use some sort of leverage. I was trying to use the art of the deal to, fix this junk, or, I'm not paying nothing. But it's maybe sort of like that. There are 3 parties involved. One party is alleged to have covered the financial obligations of the other, something like that. So the article continues with a lot of what I said at the beginning, a lot of sort of the background of the Horizon series and Kevin Costner's 4-picture intent. Whether that will end up happening or not, it's anybody's guess. On the one hand, the most sort of obvious safety net for this whole thing would be to take the project directly to streaming. You could maybe go to Paramount or Peacock, where a lot of the Yellowstone stuff is. I don't know why it's split between 2 different streaming platforms. You'd think that the most obvious audience would be on one of those platforms, but then of course you've got this sort of acrimonious breakup between Costner and the Yellowstone team, so I don't know how that whole thing might affect those platforms being a potential venue for Horizon. But again, the key word here is safety net, streaming as a safety net for the project. I would rather the project continue as planned and be released in theaters. I understand that's kind of a swimming upstream type of business model. And it's not really unusual for there to be a multi-year gap between these multi-part projects. It was how many years between Dune Part 1 and Part 2? It's been how many years? I think it's been 2 years between the last Mission Impossible film and this Part 2 thing. So the multi-year gap is not unusual. What is unusual is when you plan to release these multi-part pictures in the span of a few months, and then you sort of don't really hear anything about it for over a year. No, not quite over a year. It hasn't quite been a year yet, but it is still unusual to not hear anything about it. Will these legal kerfuffles impact the release of future installments? Yeah, maybe. If the news story is that you are owing people money, that is not a sign of firm financial footing, and it certainly calls into question the continued feasibility of, a Part 2, to my understanding, has already been completed, but Part 3, which is, I think, only a portion of it has been filmed, and, Part 4, I don't think they've even started work on it yet, aside from the script, that is. Who knows where the whole thing is going to land. Even so, that is still kind of part of the appeal. I do still appreciate the ambitious nature of the whole thing. There is, I think, a good, interesting story that's been started here, and I would like to see where it ends up. Whether that's in 4 parts, whether that's in 2 parts, whether that's in some sort of streaming endeavor. I would still like to see where the whole thing ends up. Alright, other than that, let me know what you think. Subscribe if so inclined. I write books. If you like books, okay. Goodbye.